Hello and welcome to another episode of Time Extend. My name is Adam Ismail, and joining me today is... This is where you say your name.
Oh, my name is Andrew Elmore. Hello. I don't know if we've met before, folks at home.
Brend is usually like really quick to those. Like he's like...
I didn't know if you were
gonna
say
his name.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were gonna like just like pop that off, or if I needed to just like whip out the... And I'm Brendan Roberson. Like I don't know if where I was supposed to come in on that.
That's perfect. That's actually exactly what I wanted, but I didn't want to have to say it, and you got us there anyway. So
all right, fantastic.
We're good. Yeah, so I hate introducing every single show with first show in a while, but look, you see the episode title. We're talking about Rallisport Challenge.
We are.
That's why it's good that you're here, Andrew. In addition to just I like talking to you, you are like, when I think of people, if the Xbox was a person, it would be you.
Oof.
The original Xbox.
No, I know what you mean.
The good one, not whatever the hell they're doing now.
No, I've got a brand to maintain. I understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're going to talk about. But since it's so rare that there's ever new things happening on this show that are relevant.
Yeah, we haven't had news in a while.
God, Tokyo Xtreme Racer. I just like. It's still
just rip the Band-Aid off, dude. That's so much more important than the Switch 2 stuff that got announced this morning. Right now, like in all honesty, hit me with the TXR. That's what I'm here for.
I wasn't even going to mention the Switch 2 thing, but maybe it'll be on Switch 2.
Now people know when we recorded this.
I don't know. I don't care. It's I don't know. That's like a whole other world. I'm so out of the loop when it comes to leaks and all of that stuff, and it's really funny because like, you know, we have a little chat, right? And like Brend and Paul are just like on top of it. And I'm like stuck in like, I don't know, like a year ago. Like they say it's going to have a screen and Joy-Cons.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Megaton.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not particularly concerned about it. I'm just like, well, you know, the Switch for me, like I said the other day on Blue Sky, is like that platform is a place where they keep putting out old arcade shoot them ups. So if they keep doing that, I will keep buying them on there. That's all I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be great. But what we're really here to talk about that isn't Rallisport Challenge is Tokyo Xtreme Racer, which I've been playing for a couple days now.
Talk about that, because I haven't.
Yeah, it doesn't technically come out until January 23rd, but you were... I think I said like, oh, do you guys like? Is there anything? Do you want to see the game or whatever? And you're like, nope. I want to go in.
No, I just want to
cold.
play it. Yeah, I just want to dive into that thing. Like I'm trying to avoid seeing much of anything about it, just because I'm kind of like that around like upcoming media releases. I'm looking forward to regardless. I'm like, if I already know that I want to see what is going on with this thing, then I will wait until I can personally see what's going on with it, you know, unless there is some like dramatic issue that, you know, I need to be aware of going in or whatever. But I'm not like, I don't even necessarily, like, obviously we are, you know, hosting a show here. The people at home need to hear about the Tokyo Xtreme Racer. But like, just in terms of my own personal preference, whatever, I'm like, yeah, I can wait. I've waited this long. I can wait a few more days. It's fine by me. But we have a responsibility to the people at home.
Yeah, of course.
Or rather, you do, because you're the one that's played it.
Yeah, it's been fun, and it's been just very strange playing a game like this. I mean, like, there's no, you know, sometimes a series goes away, it comes back, it's, you know, trying to recapture something, but it doesn't really have the same flavor. This is not that at all in a million years. This literally could not feel more like Tokyo Xtreme Racer if you yanked it out of any year between 1997 and 2006 and put it on a modern piece of hardware. Like, it is
nice.
It looks good. Like, and it looks, I mean, it's running on UE5, so it has all of that going for it and all those.
It's kind of hard to look bad at that point. Yeah, a lot
of right. And that does make it like a little more demanding than I would probably like, or than most people would probably like. But it looks good, and I think it's, you know, over time, because the game just came out in early access, right? So they're clearly you know, kind of sharpening things up. And at this point, I guess I'm surprised like how complete it is out of the gate. I mean, like, it's rough around the edges in the sense that, like, you know, not everything is perfectly translated, and certain things are, you know, like descriptions of things are missing, or I think it's going to have more rivals and stuff like that. But like, in terms of a game you can play now with like a career that is stable, that doesn't crash, that runs, and like, you know, just kind of a full single player experience, like it seems like it's there. They're just going to add more cars and stuff like that. So anyone who is on the fence for like, because some people have said like, oh, I don't know if I want to like jump into this right away because it's early access, but like I would say I think it's only like $20. I actually don't know if I know the price yet. Adam from the future here, it's $30. But yeah, I would say like it is a pretty substantial product for the shape that it's in, which is like the best thing you can say. And it's old school TXR. Yeah,
that's the thing. It's a lot more built out, I think, than what I was expecting when it was initially announced, when all we had was a logo. You know, I think I was at the time saying like, I don't really like, this could be like the worst garbage, cynical mobile cash grab thing that's just like, you know, spitting in the face of its legacy or some other melodramatic way to put it or whatever. But like, even if it's just that, like I'm just happy to see Genki alive in any form. So my expectations were in the basement, if not lower. So the fact that it's like, oh, they seem to have made a, like, you know, something resembling a proper modern video game. It's a little, you know, lower on the budget scale and whatever, but like, they seem to have done the damn thing.
If there was going to be a racing game that you would say like is well suited to a smaller team, or, you know, someone that can't handle the giant, you know, Forza Gran Turismo machine or whatever, TXR would be a good candidate, because like it really is just like you're driving through a tube.
Effectively,
there's some buildings.
It's not exactly an open world. No, it's you've got the Shitoku upon which to battle.
Right. It's you're driving through a tube. There's really nice reflections. There's really nice lights. You know, you just kind of create that like murky sort of vibe of like that like we're doing something. We're part of a midnight club, if you will. And they like haven't lost the ability to do that. You know, it's funny because like some of the trappings of like old school TXR that like maybe people don't like so much or remember as fondly, like the moments in the game where you're just kind of driving around forever and everyone keeps beating you, and the only people that you seem to be able to beat are the people that you've already defeated, which is not like really progressing you in the game. There's some of that. There's some of being very, very slow when you don't want to be.
Usually that just means go try a different route for a while.
Yeah. I don't want to give, I mean, you know, because the game hasn't, one of these has not happened in so long, you know, I don't want to give anything away. Yeah. And they're still tightening things up, obviously. Like in my time of playing the game, they've already had like one update that has like pretty significantly changed what certain things cost and your rewards for like certain events and things like that. There are certain perks that you get in the game. So like they're tuning things, and nice. They're obviously, you know, reaching out to and want to hear what the community has to say. And I think a lot of people are going to be very, very happy. And I feel like for now, because I don't really want this to be like a review, I feel like that's really all I have to say about it. If you would like to read the review of the new Tokyo Xtreme Racer, go to thedrive.com.
Right on. Well, that's all good to hear. I am very, very excited to get my hands on this thing for real here in about a week. I have been just salivating and frothing at the mouth like an IGN editor encountering Ikaruga in the early 2000s for this game, because just since it was announced, I've been so much back in that headspace of just like every night I'm like, what do I want to be doing right now? I want to be driving laps around at night, flashing headlights at other cars and then racing them. Like, so I'm just like, do I want to... It's like, do I pop Street Supremacy back in? Do I, even though that doesn't have that, you know, like free roam mode? Do I pick up my import tuner challenge save? Do I jump back into one of the older games again? And I'm just like, no, just wait it out. It's right around the corner. Which is exciting because I think like this very well could have been well, it's back, but not really.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, and you could go back to, where it'd be going back to the old ones or whatever, but no, it seems to really actually be kind of what I would be looking for in the first place out of a new Shdoka battle, so I'm really, really excited about that, and I hope that this does very well for them, because I, deep in my heart and soul, need Genki to exist in the world again, whatever that means. I need mecha games, I need, Sengoku period dramas with swords and shit, I need,
Yeah, I don't want to say that, oh, it's coming back when we need it most, because, I always need a game like this. I've been starving out there in the cold for so long.
True. I tried to give you a quote, and you were like, no. Absolutely not. No, this is symbolic. I need to do this.
I need to do this for the metaphor, damn it. With that said, we're here to talk about a challenge.
Indeed. We are here to rally and to Chally.
Chally? All right. We'll go along with that. My history with this game, I played it when it came out, and I was very young.
This was 2002, I think, right?
Yeah, it was March of 2002 is when it came out. In the US and Europe, and the interesting thing about that is for Europe, it coincided with the Xbox's launch over there. We got it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we got it in November. But the thing is, I wasn't aware of this game, I feel for a while. It is not the type of game that Microsoft or anyone is really going to promote very hard, because it's this weird European racing game, which is a shame because as we will talk about and will be a recurring theme through this episode, it's fucking gorgeous and runs amazingly and is a fantastic game. But yeah, I was not aware of this at all. And look, I was a kid obviously, but we had Project Gotham Racing at launch, everybody was talking about Halo. I would hear from my brother. He would be like, "Oh, you want to play this Rallisport challenge or something?" But that never happened. So I wasn't aware of this game until we just, I don't know, I guess I became aware of it. We were at Blockbuster or something probably at the time, and we rented it, and I was so just blown away just because these were the games I wanted to play. Especially when I was a kid, I wanted some kind of weird European racing game with rallying. That was my jam. That still is my jam to a certain degree. And so that is how I discovered Rallisport Challenge. But I want to know how you discover Rallisport Challenge.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I did not play either of these when they were new, but I don't know when I got into them. They've kind of just been around for a very long time, and I'm not quite sure when they arrived at the party, but they've been standing here hanging out for a long time, and I'm in no mood to kick them out because, frankly, they're quite pleasant party guests. Yeah, they have aged about as well as a game can, I think. Yeah, beautifully.
I mean, the worst thing you can say about the first one is that the second is so goddamn perfect that it almost
that it almost invalidates
it, which you never want to say because until Rallisport Challenge 2 came out, I mean, these games were just showpieces for the Xbox, but because the Xbox was so much more powerful than the Air 2 systems, and obviously we've talked about this before. We've had John on. There are certain things that the PS2 could do that that were just very, very impressive. But when the Xbox was firing on all cylinders, it almost felt like it was a generation ahead.
Yeah, when people were treating that thing like the personal computer that it
Yeah.
basically is. We're doing some really, really cool stuff. And this is a fantastic example.
Yeah. I mean, when I just remember, like, because a lot of the time with early Xbox games, right? Same thing with Halo. Like, it was a pixel shader stuff. It was like, look at the ice, and look at the way that it just kind of refracts light and stuff like that. And I mean, this game has a lot of tracks on ice, and it does that really, really well. The environments of this game were just extraordinarily striking. And even crazier is that for the longest time, I mean, literally until like a year ago, I had no idea this game also came out on PC.
Yeah, I had never... I knew the first one had, but I had not given it a try until you pointed that out.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time with that now over the past, I don't know, a few months. But, okay, by a lot of time, I mean like a few hours, but... I don't know, like eight-ish, something like that. But a lot of those were within the last few days getting ready for this, and I've been having a blast with that version of this game.
Yeah, it still
for
runs...
a very specific reason.
Well, it still runs... I don't remember what I did to get it working on Windows 11, but I didn't have to do that much. It was pretty simple. The only thing that was annoying, as it always is with these old PC games, is like getting it to, consider your controller like something that is real, that is not alien technology from another planet. But aside from that, I just it's a great way to play this game if you don't have original hardware in the form of an Xbox. Everything is there, and you can run it at higher resolutions, and it's good because these games, and like that's probably another thing that's kind of a shame, is that the second one is harder to revisit in that way, because the first one it had this PC port. It was also backwards compatible on the 360, and although like 360 backwards compatibility was never the preferred way to play a lot of original Xbox games,
it was often pretty messy.
Pretty rough.
Yeah.
It was there. It worked. It was available to you. Not really the case with the second game, but thankfully there's a couple ways to revisit the first one.
Yeah, it's being a racing game. Things not being re-released due to license restrictions is something that we are very used to around these parts. But these games are both pretty much trapped on their original hardware for the time being, unless you have a way to circumnavigate that. So the first game, Rallisport Challenge 1, I think my abandonware just has like a full, like no CD rip, just like install this exe file and you're ready to go kind of thing, which is what I did, but I put that on a flash drive and made a portable installer and loaded that up on my XP machine over here.
Oh, that's wonderful.
On a big old CRT, and the real reason that I fell so deeply in love with Rallisport Challenge 1 now for the first time on its own merits here is because the main thing about that PC port for me is it has wonderful implementation for the Microsoft Sidewinder force feedback joystick.
Of course, yeah.
Joystick is a really weird way to play a racing game, for sure. It's definitely not a wheel.
Force feedback joystick, no less.
Right, but that's the thing, though, is it's amazing. Like, it's so, like, man, remember when, like, the Switch 1 came out? We have to say that now, the Switch 1, when that came out, and people were talking about the Ice Cube demo in, like, 1-2 Switch or whatever that they... when people were seeing that thing early, and they were, like, talking about the HD rumble, feeling the ice cubes clink around in the Joy-Con or whatever. It's just that all the time, but for a car that's bouncing and flying and screaming all over the terrain really fast all the time. Because, it's... The stick itself is just getting, like, jerked all over the place, and it really does an excellent job of translating some of the physical aspect of the just sheer panic and terror of driving a rally car.
Yeah, because this game, I mean... we haven't said yet, 60 frames per second, the sense of speed is crazy. And there's a lot of tracks, like, it is more of, a quote-unquote simcade sort of rally game.
Sure.
Probably more towards the arcade end of the spectrum. So you have these really, really wide-open tracks with just straights that go on forever. Like, the stages themselves aren't very long, but there are some pretty long straightaways, and the width of those stages is wide, so, like, it feels like you're at full throttle a lot more than you would be in another rally game.
Some of the hill climbs in that first game towards the end start to get up to like 6, 7, 8 miles, and that long with
that's true.
a joystick there is like, it begins to become a workout. It's like, all right, it's exciting, but it's also like it becomes like an endurance challenge for your like attention span as well, because if you just start to space out even a little bit, it's like, well, now I'm careening over a cliff.
Yeah, but it sounds like you enjoyed it, because like you're really
amazing time.
Yeah, you're really plugged into these alternative methods of control for racing games. Like, I feel really bad because like you know sent me the Jog-Con and the Neji-Con, and like neither have been. I found it really hard to click with both of them. Probably the Neji-Con was easier.
Yeah.
Maybe if I was younger, maybe that's the thing. Like if I'd used these things when I was a kid, because like back then, I mean, there were no rules. It was like Namco was like, yeah, here's a controller you twist to turn a steering wheel, because that makes sense. But for a lot of people, it did, and it was like a great way to play Ridge Racer. But I am just it's so baked into me now. You know, it's so intrinsic to just use an analog stick that it's really hard.
Yeah, or a D-pad or whatever in the case of Ridge, but yeah, it's Neji-Con is weird because twisting it in the middle is like you're twisting forward and back to control something that's moving left and right on screen, which is always strange. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't have any of this like peripheral stuff at the time either. I just have started exploring some of that stuff in recent years, going back and revisiting is not the word. I don't know. I like
visiting.
Seeking out weird ways to experience media that are not really a going concern anymore. No one's making force feedback joysticks anymore unless it's part of like a HOTAS for a much more complicated rig. But your average like retail video game is not concerned with APIs for a 20-year-old joystick. So right now my big three like this was worth hunting down a force feedback joystick games were MechWarrior 4, one of the Moto Racers, I don't remember which one, and then this Rallisport Challenge 1 is it's really, really cool. I don't know, there's so much more detail in the like tactile feedback than I was expecting. I don't want to sound like I'm writing marketing copy here and tell you that you're going to feel every piece of gravel on the road or whatever, but like, but you might as well though. Like it's really granular in a way that's really fun and exciting. I don't know. I think I finally ended up hunting one of those down after LGR did a video about it a couple years ago. I think where he was like, "Hey, no one talks about these, but if you get the right one, they're really cool." And I was like, that does seem pretty cool and very hard to communicate over a camera in a video. Yeah. But he was right. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say about the PC port of this. It was running really wildly uneven on my XP machine, and I'm wondering if that might be a CPU bottleneck. I don't remember what. It's an AMD slot. I don't remember which one is in there. It's Phenom 2 something or other. But the GPU in that machine is GTX 960, which is probably overkill for a game from 2002. It's like if we could put all the compute on this somehow, it would probably run better. But I just had Fraps running in the corner, and it was bouncing anywhere from 60 to like the mid 30s, but I never really saw it get any lower than that. Yeah, it didn't even seem to be related to anything about like how many cars were on screen, how many different like post-processing effects are happening or whatever. It was just there are points in each track where the frame rate will be consistently something weird. Like it'll run at 60 through this corner and this corner, but the straight in between will be like 42 to 48 or something. I don't know, just weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was consistent for every run, so it's like playing Mega Man on the NES or whatever. You start to learn to work the slowdown into your routing.
Right.
Yeah, feel free to jump in whenever. But that was like I barely touched the Xbox port of this game because I spent so much of that time and energy playing it on PC with force feedback joystick and having the time of my stupid life.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, back in the day, I obviously played the Xbox one, and it's like they're pretty, in terms of content or whatever, they're the same game. The only thing I thought was funny was that all of the cars' number plates on the side have an Xbox decal on the Xbox, but I guess that was illegal if you were coming out with a game on Windows, so, DICE got rid of that.
Yeah, I don't know if we've talked about the fact that this is a DICE game, but
yeah, we didn't mention that, did we?
We should probably get into that. We're all over the place here today. It's been a while. We're trying to get back in our groove. We don't have our friends across the pond to help steer us straight, and it's been a week or a few of weeks in the States.
In the world,
anyway,
the States.
It's everywhere. But Rallisport Challenge 1 strikes me as a very pre-Xbox era Microsoft Game Studios joint. This is 100% the kind of thing that they would be going out to, like when they were doing like flight simulator stuff in the like late 90s and everything, like when they were going out to various game studios all over like Europe and stuff, be like, hey, can you make us a computer game that we can publish? We would love to give you money for this. They were doing that for a while with all, like they had Asheron's Call and all kinds of wild stuff across the spectrum of genres and all that. But I feel like we got a good chunk of random Microsoft funded like racing and sports and simulation games around this era, and I feel like this is very much fits into at least the kind of like spiritual aesthetic of that initiative, if nothing else.
Well, they had DICE and Microsoft, they worked together on these two games, but also Midtown Madness 3 was also a DICE joint. Yes. Which is interesting because obviously the first two games were not. They were, is it Angel or DMA? It was one of the Rockstar. I think it was Angel.
Yeah, in my head it's DMA, but they might have swapped over at that point. I don't know.
So, they clearly had a relationship with Microsoft at that time, and it worked well for everyone involved. And it's a shame because we don't have to go here immediately, I guess, but like obviously. DICE was really good at making games like this. They were fantastic at it. And, they were really good at first-person shooters, too. I don't think there was ever a time where I was like, I hope they make that forever, but that is what the future has brought us. Yeah. It's interesting because before they made this, DICE being a Swedish studio, they had a game called like S4D Racing or something like that. They had a Volvo racing game on the PC. And what's pretty entertaining about these Rallisport games is, and I guess this might be a good opportunity for us to sort of segue into the second one. I remember seeing an ad before Rallisport Challenge 2 came out. Rallisport Challenge 2 came out in the middle of 2004. Mm-hmm. And I was really like surprised by it. It was gameplay. It was video game gameplay, but it wasn't an ad for Rallisport Challenge 2. It was an ad for Volvo, and they had the game had the Volvo S40 in it. And there's one point where like this, I have to find this ad, but like this guy's going through a turn and rolls, and the car gets like destroyed, as is very easy to do in Rallisport Challenge because these games have like amazing damage models.
That's so good.
And I think like. What differentiated this and the game is I seem to remember the guy getting out of the car like a helmeted driver. He's like, I'm okay, because that was kind of the whole point.
Volvo's whole like, we'll save your family,
right?
Thing that they were pushing back then, yeah.
But it used music from the game, and it used it was rendered, presume with the same technology as the game, and it was pretty cool to see that. It was kind of this time where like video games were like getting more legitimate in the mainstream, and so to see this game I was excited about, and then being used as like an ad for a Volvo, for like a real car, that was kind of neat. But I mean, Rallisport Challenge 2, man, I mean, it's
hell of a video game.
I have always felt that like if they put this on 360 and just bumped the resolution up to 720p and did nothing else, it would have been a perfectly fine, fantastic launch title.
Yeah, totally. I mean, they would have had to push it back like a whole nother year to hit 360 launch, but yeah.
Right. No, but like it's that kind of like you know, as time moves on and technology gets better and better, to a certain degree, I feel like the, you know, the sea changes or like the big steps of like every generation almost like compress, you know, as like history moves on. So like, you know, when you go back to like early 360 games and you see some ports that are, or some titles that are not particularly impressive and just kind of scratching the surface of what the hardware could do. And then you see Rallisport Challenge 2, you're like, oh, this is at a level of quality that is just like timeless. It's a really, really special game.
Yeah, there's nothing about it that looks messed up, other than like some of the like UI pop-ups are a little like chunky and low res and stuff. But even then, for the most part, that stuff is pretty clean and out of the way. Like, there's nothing about this game that I would like to change. I don't have any issues that I want to bring up. I'm not like, yeah, it's all great except for this one thing. It's just like, it's just a damn good rallying game from the 6th gen era of, you know, racing game tradition. It's part of the Xbox Sports Network thing, the short-lived XSN, which I think is what caught my eye first. I was like, oh, they were actually pushing something that was not just like a direct competitor with, you know, like Tiger Woods or NBA 2K or whatever. Because, you know, a lot of the XSN stuff is like you have your Amped 2 and your Rally Chally 2, but you don't. That sounds so disgusting to say out loud, but I keep doing it because it makes your face twist up all weird.
It does do
that. It's like you have those, but then you have, you know, the Xbox port of Lynx, like 04 or something, and then like NBA Inside Drive and NFL Fever and all that stuff, and it's very much of the like the Dreamcast era of like, fine, we'll do our own sports games, we'll do them in house, we'll get visual concepts in here, and in a lot of cases it literally are just those Dreamcast series continued forward into the Xbox era. But yeah, I think I want to say this caught my eye at a Blockbuster or something back then, and I may have rented it once or twice. I truly do not recall when I first encountered either of these games, but yeah, it holds up so beautifully, wonderfully well, because it's, you know, assuming you do have an original Xbox still, but it's it's 16:9, 480p, Dolby Digital. It runs at a beautiful blistering 60 that doesn't drop for anything. It's just really, really impressive, and it's really fun. The handling model is fantastic. It's, like you said, it's a little in that like SimCady range. Like, it's closer to Sega Rally Revo than it is to like, you know, Dirt Rally 2 or something. But it's very controllable and like slidey in a way that makes sense for a video game. Yeah. To the extent that I thought it would be really funny if I tried to play through the at least one of the career mode paths using a racing wheel. Just in my living room, an old plastic Mad Catz MC2, the one with like the pedals, and it has like the stupid LED like RPM gauge that lights up on the front. That's just based on how hard you're pushing the accelerator down. Anyway, I was doing absolutely miserable with that. I played through almost the entire amateur thing with that. It was just awful. All my times are terrible. It's flying all over the place. It was very difficult to control. That tiny wheel sucks. But the good news is, especially in the amateur mode, pretty much no matter what time you get, the second place will be about 30 seconds behind you every time. So it's all right.
I actually did want to ask you about the Dolby Digital thing, because I wrote down my notes, Dolby 5.1, Andrew ? The most luxury I have in terms of, you know, audio is a sound bar, which is none. So that's my life.
It's fine. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's an original Xbox game. It's got great multi-channel surround support going on. There's engine sounds all over the room. What do you want from me?
Also, like, very, like, these early, we're not talking early Xbox anymore, but I guess the original Xbox games, racing games, they tend to go pretty hard with the rumble. They tend to be pretty aggressive. This Sega GT is really bad, where I think it's just like Sega GT, it never gets particularly strong, but it is like a low hum of rumble that persists for the entirety of a race. No matter what you're doing.
Yeah, if your tires are moving on the tarmac in that game, your hand is slowly numbing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very good. I ended up playing most of, after I got bored with after I finally went, well, the wheel experiment was bad and put that away. I don't think I've ever done well in any game with that wheel, but I have it for some reason.
I had an Interact wheel back in the day for Ridge Racer 5, which is like wheels and Ridge Racer don't really work. They don't go together. And that really ruined wheels for me for a long time until I realized, like, oh, it depends on what you're actually playing. But
dude, if I got like Troned into a Ridge Racer game and was asked to hop in a car and drive it, I would assume it steers with a D-pad in there. Still, like, those cars don't use wheels. That's not how that. No, absolutely not. After I ended up with that, the whole wheel thing away, I ended up spending the rest of my time using the Retro Fighters, whatever their Xbox controller is, Hunter, I think, whatever their dumb name is. But that thing's fantastic. Pressure sensitive buttons and all that. Super low latency. Battery lasts forever. It's really comfortable. It's great. Cannot recommend enough. The rumble was functional and not annoying. It's not like, shooting the assault rifle in Halo 1 while holding a Duke. God. Where it's just like, oh, my whole skeleton is shaking now.
Yeah, so as far as other things, you mentioned XSN earlier. I believe, if I'm understanding what I think I read correctly, that this game came out 2 months after XSN was canceled.
Fantastic.
So XSN, I don't know when it started, but I mean that whole initiative.
I think it was just through 04, right?
Yeah.
I think it was pretty short-lived.
Didn't even.
Yeah, it was like Activision 02 a little bit, where it's just
didn't even make a whole year. Maybe, I don't know, but it sounds correct. What's really funny is that, like, the cover of this game, and I think we talked about in a previous episode, it's that XSN branding that everything had back then for that year, I guess.
The glowing light from below.
You have kind of like what looks like a portal or a transporter or something on the ground, and there's this glowing light, and it's showing.
Looks like it was designed for Fusion Frenzy.
Yeah, exactly.
Take that for what you will. Yeah.
That's a good reference point. Normally in that, glowing light, you would expect to see, like, I don't know, Randy Moss or whoever played basketball. I don't care about basketball.
A weird painting of a guy playing basketball, as was the style at the time for Inside Drive and NFL Fever.
By the way, if you put a gun to my head and ask me to remember the title of the XSN or the Microsoft NBA game, I would die. I would never have remembered Inside Drive.
Played it. I just have terminal Xbox brain, so I just.
That's why you're here. That's why you're here.
That's adding value.
But yeah, I just love that, for the cover of this game, it's instead of a person, you have car. You have
2 cars.
Subaru Impreza, and what's here? It's probably a Lancer or something, right? I don't have it in front
of me. It's like a Citroen or something weird.
Citroen Xara, probably. So you just have cars in this transporter thing.
Yeah. It's weird because they're just like, they took a normal key art style screenshot and then just kind of like masked it with like a brush in Photoshop into the like glow. It doesn't make any visual sense whatsoever. If you look at it for more than a few seconds, you will start to feel your brain cells begin to microwave themselves to death one by one. So I don't recommend it. It's a very dangerous cognito hazard. The PSD for this art file came from The Zone. I don't know. It ain't right.
This is making me realize something else, though, because I finally just pulled up a picture of the cover of this game. We need more vertical titles.
Oh, yeah, where it's like come down the side like that.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
It's like we get a lot of Japanese games do that for obvious reasons, but like, we get a Brave Story New Traveler do that. Some of the sagas will do that. And a Rallisport Challenge 2 does that. Looks great. Does that? I should have checked. Did they do that XSN thing in other territories as well? Like, do we have European listeners right now that are like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Yeah, let's find out. I'm gonna go to Moby Games
live on the air.
They usually have covers of every region.
The best podcasts are the ones where someone is just reading Wikipedia articles into a microphone. So I think this is important, what we're doing here.
Yeah, and I definitely never opened Wikipedia when I was doing research. Not once ever. Yeah, it looks like it was like this in Europe as well. They had the XSN branding. I can't find whatever the Japanese box art looked like, but
it might not have even come
might
out
not
there.
even come out in Japan. Yeah,
In all sincerity, which would be weird, but not completely outside the realm of possibility for an Xbox exclusive. Because the kinds of those that were actually coming out and getting marketing budget over there and stuff were much more, overtly directed at a localized audience. You know, your various like Princess Maker clones and visual novels and mecha titles and stuff like that.
Well, according to Wikipedia, it did come out in Japan a month later than the rest of the world. I can't find box art of it though. So much like you remember Group S Challenge? We're talking about Xbox games.
Yep.
May as well mention Group S Challenge. So in other countries, well, I guess no, in Japan specifically, it was called Circus Drive, and I can't find. I think I've seen box art of it, but like I can't even find like a disc image of that game. Like,
it is difficult to find.
It, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't exist. So.
Yeah, now you've got me curious about that. Like, that's not what we're here to talk about, but now I'm just like, well, what the?
No, I was like, can I just find like any sort of like record? Has someone preserved Circus Drive, the Japanese version of Group S Challenge?
Yeah, there's a copy on eBay for $58 right now.
Yeah, well, someone has to buy it and rip it, is what that means.
Yeah, if I'm going to get it, it's not going to be this way. I'll get it from Yahoo Auctions or something, but this cover art is incredible.
The cover art's great for that game. A lot better than Group S Challenge.
S Challenge, yeah, which isn't that bad. It's just, it looks very generic, if not for the Capcom logo down there at the bottom. It's just, yeah, I don't know. It's very strange.
Going back to Rallisport Challenge 2.
Please do.
I'm looking at the rest of my notes. This game is on Insignia. It not only had Xbox Live support, but it's on Insignia. So,
yes, we should have probably played it beforehand, but I was going to ask about that last week, but you were covering CES, and I had too much other crap to do. So it's, this is not the kind of game where I'm that concerned about the multiplayer aspect of it. It's always been a single player game for me, regardless. I realize it would be nice to be able to speak to that a little more, directly here on the show. But, like when we're talking about an original Xbox game, I think it would be cool to be able to say that we played a little bit of it like we did with AMP 2 a while back, assuming it's something that has Insignia support. But, yeah, it is a thing that you can do that we did not, but it's there. And I think it rules that it's there. I think the odds of us playing this are not zero still.
Definitely not zero. It also works in Zemu, the original Xbox emulator on PC, because I do have I've been through so much shit with original Xboxes over the past year that I just I'm kind of over it, and I have an original Xbox, but it's not here. But what I do have, obviously, is a PC, and I'm like, why is Xbox emulation just not? It's frustrating. Whatever, it's not important. The fact is, this game does work on Zemu. The only issue with it, and it runs great, the only problem with it is the audio. You have a choice of either engine noises louder than everything else and just ear-splittingly loud, or I can't remember what the saying is in the emulator, but if you turn it off, then you just get background music, you just get music in the race, and it just turns off the engine noise, which honestly is, if you have to choose between those two things, probably the better way to play the game. But the important thing is you can enjoy it in Zemu, and you can, that does mean that there are ways to play this game outside of having original hardware, which is really nice.
That's good.
Yeah. What else? So they started work on this game right after the first one came out, and they spent, looks like, about 2 years on it, pretty much 2 years. And the first one took 18 months. And God, What a time where you could just like kind of throw out all of your work from a previous game and start over and get the game done in 2 years.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
What a time to be alive. Yeah, that's the way that dev schedules are drawn out now. It feels so bonkers to look back at old games and being like, even if you were just making some of the new assets, like, how did you do this so fast? And the answer is usually, crunch and wild labor exploitation. But also, just games didn't take as long to make.
Yeah, that was big. And unfortunately, it seems like it did not sell well.
Yeah.
I guess the first one enjoyed being definitely, being a launch title in Europe and still in the US, like not having a lot of competition on the original Xbox and being like an early showpiece. And by the time the second one came out, these systems were very well entrenched in the market. So apparently it sold 40K in its first week in the UK, which is if you're coming out with a racing game in the mid 2000s and it doesn't sell well in the UK,
you're cooked, dude.
You're cooked, unfortunately.
You know how much they love to go vroom over there?
They love it.
They love it. It's beautiful.
Thing.
I love that about them.
We can say that because our 2 hosts from the UK are not here.
It's true. Yeah, we would never say anything kind about them or where they come from while they're here.
Right.
But when they're gone, we can talk about how wonderful they are. Speaking of which, I do want to make a quick note that I did just accidentally win a sealed copy of Circus Drive for a penny on Yahoo Auctions Japan. Because it was 1 yen at no minimum bid and a few minutes left. So I'm good. Yeah, good thing we checked.
Oh, that's wonderful. All right, so...
It's sealed. Why is it sealed? Okay.
Oh my god.
Anyway.
Sealed copy. Well, thank you
group ass challenge. It doesn't need to... Whatever.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you for...
happy to, yes. If we can't find a disc image of this somewhere, maybe we can, do some historic preservation.
Yeah, that's what I want to be remembered.
Save a lost video game.
I mean, you're doing this. I'm not. But like, if one of the things I could be remembered for was that I preserved Circus Drive, the Japanese release of Group S Challenge, for the rest of
time. At least somebody did.
Yeah, I would be proud of that. I mean, I almost bought Jason Lamp, aka Kusanagi765. He and I were in a retro game shop in Jersey. Actually, a pretty good one. I think they're called Retro Classics. But anyway, they had like 7 or 8 copies of MRC, and I almost bought them all just to ship to random people. And
just send all of them to Paul.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't do that.
We've got to stop shipping N64 games to Paul, but
no.
the N64 games will continue until morale improves.
Mm. Yeah, Paul's getting like deep into N64 because he's getting an analog 64 or something. I think he wants to, and he.
I think he bought one.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't have it yet, right? Because they don't.
Right, but I think he already did the order and all that.
So he's just stockpiling N64 games. I think he has an N64 too, right?
Probably. Wow, Paul has an N64 too? It's just the 64 DD, actually, I guess.
Yeah.
But
which might tease a future episode we could potentially be thinking about having. Usually, if any of us are stockpiling like specific games, and we share that information, it's because we have an idea to talk about them on a recorded podcast in the next year.
Or so, roughly. Yeah, it's happened before. Not that I've ever, found myself slowly amassing too many racing games for a given platform. That's not something that I've ever done for this show. And I never will.
And you never ever will.
I definitely did not just order a copy of Circus Drive. Dear Lord. I think the only time that I've actually dumped a disc image that I could not find anywhere else online was I had a trio of Saturn demo discs from Japan that were weirdly hard to track down, so I put those up at some point, but I think that's about it in terms of, dump and undumped stuff that's old and at risk of disappearing or whatever. But yeah, I think It's that, and Paul's also going down a deep, dark PC Engine hole, and there's a lot less racing to be found there. So there's maybe not as much to be said. But,
yeah. Unfortunately, with me, once you get to the era where, you're doing mostly top-down racing, and I'm sure they did have some like rudimentary, behind the car perspective things on PC Engine, but it's probably not.
Yeah, I mean, it's your pole position style
Yeah.
stuff for the most part. You have your top-down like Monaco GP or like Sega Turbo style stuff like F1 Circus. But even that game is like so fast. You need to have very clean, clearly defined, memorized structures of how those tracks work so that you are turning well in advance. Much more so than like Neo Drift Out or something.
Right.
But yeah, anyway.
So I think the one last thing that we have to talk about is that you sent me your list of songs that you have in the custom soundtrack for these games. Is this specifically for Rallisport Challenge, or is this just Xbox? This just lives on your Xbox.
Yeah, so basically the impetus for this was a combo of Rallisport Challenge 2 having a soundtrack I did not particularly care for. I like the first one, weirdly enough. I like that one more. I don't know, I didn't even stop to check who composed those, so apologies. But I wasn't as big on the second one, and I've been meaning to load up my Xboxes with a bunch more music anyway, because it's been a long time since I've done that. And I think I've wiped most of that off at some point, so there's not a lot on there. But like a couple weeks ago, I was going through and A/Bing a bunch of like Burnout and other like Criterion games between PS2 and Xbox, because again, John was like, "No, dude, they were doing some wild stuff with the vector units on the PS2 that they just could not be replicated on other hardware." And I had assumed all this time that the Xbox ports of those games would be preferable, but turns out now they're all significantly prettier on PS2. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
All the Burnout games and Black somehow, which I really expected to look like trash on PS2.
Well, isn't the second Burnout game though? I know there's one of them that like on Xbox looks really good, has like real reflections and all that stuff. But
I know they called the second one the Developer's Cut. I don't remember what the. I assume that was like a content edition thing or whatever. But
yeah.
Anyway, point is, I was going through those and I was just like, man, I love Burnout 3 so much. I love Burnout 3 as much as I hate the soundtrack for Burnout 3. I'm sorry, that's just not my scene. That is a style of really buttoned up corporate pop punk that I cannot.
Still has a place in my heart. I can't hate it.
It's just always been nails on a chalkboard for me. So I had to change that out, and I just. Basically, what I was doing is I was going through and cleaning a bunch of crap off an old hard drive, and then I found a bunch of music on that hard drive, and I was like, what if I just use this and burned this? Well, I ended up burning, I think, 3 CDs to fit all the stuff on here. I could have just FTP'd it, I guess, over a network, but I didn't think about that. I was just like, oh, yeah, I'll just, burn some discs and then rip them to the Xbox, as we did in the olden days. So, yeah, my sort of arbitrary restrictions here were, I think it's one track per artist. Maybe there are a couple exceptions there. It's almost all stuff from the 2000s and stuff that would be fun to listen to in a racing game. I tried to lean towards tracks that were not necessarily the big single that you might license from that band or whatever.
Yeah.
And not all of this is like, like we're doing some time traveling here. Not all of this stuff came out in this era. There's some stuff from the late aughts or whatever in here, and there's some stuff from like a couple years ago in here. But
yeah, so
anyway.
I'll just call out a few standout. First of all, you start out with Arctic Monkeys. This house is a circus, berserk as fuck.
We tend to see that as a perk around here. No, look. Sorry. Stupid. The worst bit of all time.
Like Eating Glass is such a great song.
Drink
and is
Yeah,
the I promise I'm not going to read each of these. Just happen to be the first two tracks.
Sure.
I love liking.
I know
Yeah.
I knew for a fact that you were going to read this out loud to me at some point if I sent it to you. Like you were not going to be able to help yourself, so I would send it to you.
All right, I'm gonna try and pick it up. So Galaxy Bounce, obviously PGR1 Classic, Dinosaur Jr., Sludgefest, love it. Fugazi, Killers, LCD Sound System. Now I'm just, I've never listened to the New Order album Republic.
Oh damn, there's some bops on there, dude.
Yeah, so I haven't heard World. Definitely not the 2015 remaster.
You've probably heard World somewhere.
I have.
Somehow.
All right, I'll have to go find that. Hand That Feeds. Midnight Club 3, I think, had that too. Great song.
Probably.
Pearl Jam, Animal, fantastic. Pixies, Prodigy, You'll Be Under My Wheels, great. Public Enemy. REM, I'm amazed you found an REM song to put on the racing game playlist, but I applaud it.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll get there. And
welcome to a stealth episode of the Silent Discovery.
yeah, no, it's all great. It's all great. You got Metric. Metric is required on a playlist like this, I think. So it's good. It's good stuff.
Could it be better? Absolutely. But I thought if I make it ideal, that's too much. I need some tracks in here that I don't even necessarily vibe with that much, but feel appropriate. You know?
Yeah, they can't all be good because I feel like, I mean,
they can't all be 10 out of 10s.
These all look good, but they can't all be perfect because I feel like one of the great things about playing an old video game with licensed songs is that, and if you have like a skip function, I mean, even if I didn't have a skip function, I would fucking restart races in Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 over and over and over and over again until I heard a Bush song that nobody remembers that I really liked when I was a kid. So yeah, you need some 7 out of 10s or some 8 out of 10s to make the 10 out of 10 stand taller, I think.
Yeah. And some weird B-sides in here. Like, I don't like the Killers, but there's a couple things on Sawdust that are at least like interesting and would make sense for a 2000s racing game. So I threw all the pretty faces in there. But yeah, I don't know. There's a bunch of tracks that just feel all right when you're. Yeah, it just loops through the playlist when you're, driving in Rallisport Challenge 2.
Also, you have My Chemical Romance on here, so you can't say. I mean, that was Burnout 3.
Was it? I don't even. I put that on there largely for my wife, who's a huge My Chem fan.
And she's correct for it. I mean, I'm not, but I feel like, I feel like when I was a kid, I like wrote them off too much because people I didn't like them. And looking back, I just realized that,
That's kind of where I was, and then
was being fair.
Just living of life with someone who grew up being a huge fan of that band exposed me a lot to it. And she started with her first CD for me, and I was like, oh, this is not like, I think I was expecting it to be closer to like Fall Out Boy or whatever. But like, this is like early AFI or something. It's a bunch of kids in a basement that love Metallica and Slayer.
It's definitely
and, like, comic books and shit. Like, it's
Yeah, certain people would hate to hear me say this, but I can get down with some of this stuff. I cannot get down with Fall Out Boy. I think Fall Out Boy is horrible.
No,
they are
redeemable.
Yeah,
sure.
They are better than Fall Out Boy.
But that's that bar is in hell.
Yeah. But if you like this, then look forward to Silent Discographer. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's Rallisport Challenge.
It certainly is. What a mess.
That is Rallisport Challenge.
We need to get our homies back in here for the next step. We've got plans, folks. We've been playing some stuff behind the scenes. I promise we're not like completely forgetting about all of this, all of you beautiful people.
In all honesty, I feel like I've almost forgotten how to do this, which definitely is another sign that we need to try to do it more often.
Pick it back up a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Just in general, yeah.
In general.
I don't know if we need to start getting into our like ending closing monies here or whatever, but yeah, I think these are two wonderful, beautiful video games. Play either of them however you can. If you just have an Xbox, the second one is a better, more complete experience, but like the first one's still so damn good. Like, if the second one never came out, we would just be talking about one really, really cool game that came out in 2002.
Yeah.
Still.
And these games don't really cost anything, right? I mean, they're also they're also Xbox games. So like,
yeah, they're original Xbox licensed racing games. And no one cares. They're basically free.
You can get both of them very easily and without much expense. And while the second is, it's kind of hard to argue with the second being the better game, the first one is so good and so just even crazy for its time that, like, if you appreciate Rallisport Challenge 2, you're also going to appreciate Rallisport Challenge 1. So,
yeah, definitely. There is not a lot of light between them. They're not very different. The second one is just, like, improved in a lot of small, subtle ways, which we didn't even really get into, but it's like, yeah, it has online multiplayer support, and, it's technically been improved a little bit. There's a little more detail. I feel like the car models are higher poly. The damage stuff breaks up a little better, little things like that. There's some... the tarmac shines better. I don't think it actually has any normal maps going on, but there's more detail in the scenes, etc.
There's a lot of dynamic leaves getting kicked up and blowing over the track, and just trees kind of swaying and stuff like that. Fog, the weather effects are really cool. Night racing, which I don't think was in the first one.
There was some evening racing in the first one, I feel like, but nothing blackout, terrifying Monte Carlo in the dark, which those races are harrowing.
Yeah, and you get that in the second one, and it just handles a little sharper. The course design, because they have in both games, they have these crossover tracks, which are basically a super special stage in the WRC or something like that. But the ones that, I mean, all of tracks like this in Rallisport Challenge 2 are fictional, of course, but the ones that they've built for this game are so fucking insane. If you ever saw a real super special stage, there might be one crossover portion. It's pretty simple. It's you have an oval and a chicane, and at one point one of the tracks goes over the other one. And in this game, they've terraformed the world to create the perfect rallycross 1v1 head-to-head track that could never exist in real life, and they cross over each other 12 times. It's everything about this game, from the way it looks to the way it runs to just the artistry is perfect.
It's not terribly realistic, but it's fun and it feels really, really good. It's just an incredibly well crafted and enjoyable experience, and I think it's worth praising and celebrating when that happens.
Yeah. And the one last thing I'll say, I meant to say earlier, that I think is really neat about this game is you had mentioned Sega Rally Revo earlier, and it is probably closest to that in the sense of just the way it drives, and that's an arcadey racing game or something. But it's also Sega Rally Revo, there's no damage. You're kind of constrained to a track. You can't veer off of that track in any way.
It is less arcadey than Revo,
you have,
for sure.
Yeah, you have invisible walls and stuff like that. In this game, it's still arcadey, but when you crash, you fucking get wrecked.
Yes.
The damage is nuts. So it's one of those games where the physics are designed in such a way to just push you to just drive an absolute idiot and have the time of your life doing it. But there are still consequences to doing that, and so that makes it kind of
that's a good way to put it.
Game.
It feels like it is asking you to drive with a manic intensity that is incredibly dangerous, but still asks you to be good about it. Just maintain your focus and be on your shit. Because when you do take a turn wrong and go flying, you go flying. These cars do not feel like they have a whole lot of weight once they hit the ground, which is probably a speed simulation consideration. But once they leave the ground, they are basically tiny planes. You can start flipping and rolling all over the place. I took a turn really bad one time, and I did a front flip over a fence and landed in the parking lot of an apartment complex. And it was not out of bounds, so I could still just drive around in there. And I was like, oh, well, this is now just a cool little, I'm just going to park here. I'm just going to slowly back this, Evo 7 into, in between these two, generic, unlicensed cars or whatever. And just, do donuts in a parking lot between these buildings just because I can, and there's a weird novelty to it. And then I, reset and restart the race. But, yeah, you can get really airborne, and it is very frantic and erratic in a way that is exhilarating and frightening at the same time. Again, especially at night when it's just like abject terror.
Yeah, and the first one, the second one probably has some of this too, but in the first one you have all of these, like, I feel like the track designers definitely on purpose put these chicanes in a lot of the faster tracks, and on the inside of these chicanes, it's not like flat ground,
boulder or something. Or,
well, I mean,
like
there's
a weird hill. Yeah.
So there's a hill. Like usually, like there might be a boulder or rock or something, so you don't cut. But in a lot of cases, they just have like kind of like a little bit of a hill on the inside. Like say you're doing like a right-left. It's like there's a hill on the right, and then there's a hill on the left. And like if you hit it right, you could do a kickflip. And I feel like every time I see that, I'm like, you want me to do a kickflip. That's why
you
this
are
is
trying
here.
to get me to barrel roll this thing if I cut is what's happening. Yes.
Yeah. So it's that unique combination of a game that is technically proficient, has kind of a serious exterior, but then when you get down to it, it's just a lot of manic fun.
Yeah, I think the career mode also, especially in the second game, is laid out really, really well. I like the kind of branching groups of different sets of events to complete, and then just you reach a point total, and it unlocks the next group of events to go through. So you can kind of pick and choose as you go, or just do all of them sequentially and keep going, which is what I've been doing. The other thing that I meant to mention about this run is I played both of them almost exclusively in first person. So the second one, that means a cockpit view. It's a generic cockpit view, but it is, behind the glass in the window and everything. And played almost entirely like that, which is part of, I think, why I'm so dearly afraid of the night courses.
Yeah.
Like, I'm much more afraid about jumping into one of those than I am about, like, firing up Silent Hill 2 in the dark room or whatever. It's, those things scare me.
That's saying something.
They scare me so much. But, yeah, I think it's just a really, really excellent, complete package. I think, like you said, like everything about it still feels really, really, like there's nothing that I wish was better or different or done in a more like, holistic fashion or whatever. It's like, no, they kind of just put out a basically perfect kind of, arcade-ish rally game after doing that already. It's like they put out like a perfect 2002 version of this and then a perfect 2004 version of it that has managed to remain pretty much timeless.
Yeah, and despite the sales at its time and stuff, like it gets respect today. I still think
like
being
people that know it.
Yeah, being an original Xbox game, it still will never be as well known as,
for sure.
Even among racing games fans as like a Ridge Racer or Gran Turismo or something like that. But it will, the people who know, I think keep beating the drum. That's really all you can ask for.
Yeah, and honestly, I think a lot of people that are listening to this right now will already have plenty of first-hand experience with one or both of these games. I think this is kind of a time-extended canonical favorite.
Yeah. Certainly not no Xbox Brendan Rorison, who every time I brought up an Xbox game, that guy's just like, what?
Never heard of it.
Yeah, didn't exist.
They got FIFA on there?
They got FIFA. They did.
They do, in fact. They do. But what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, yeah, it's like it feels spiritually akin that way to Test Drive Le Mans to me. It's on Dreamcast. Like, this is a very time-extended core video game, I feel like. And I don't know. I just like it a lot. It's one of my favorite racing games because it's just so complete. It's my favorite rally game. It's just...
This has given me an idea for a future episode that's like time extends, like the most time extend racing games. Like, I don't want to do like our 10 favorite, but I want to do like,
but just like what
describes like
games? What do we bring up all the time that is like, it's a collective vibe here.
Yeah. And like if we had to put together a list of 10 games or something like that would represent the shit that we won't shut up about.
Yeah, Porsche Challenge, include? City Racer.
Porsche Challenge. We should have an episode about Porsche Challenge. But
I saw someone the other day who said that is one of 3 games that has ever given me crippling motion sickness.
Oh my god, it's so good. Why? I couldn't imagine being too sick to enjoy Porsche Challenge. It's not I'm glad that wasn't my childhood.
I mix that one up with Need for Speed,
The
Porsche
Need for
Unleashed
Speed.
all the time, so I don't.
Yeah, very different games.
I don't remember which one is which.
Yeah, the PS1 port of Porsche Unleashed is dog shit. The PC version is like EA put like basically the same Need for Speed game out like 3 or 4 times on the PC, and it's fine. But
yeah, I remember seeing them in a box at Costco.
yeah, I got one of those at the Dollar Tree.
Even better.
Yeah.
All right, man. I think that is. Do we have any other announcements or anything that we want to get into here at the end, other than?
We haven't had an episode in like 3 months. I think
I know, man. It's yeah. Hopefully, we'll be able to get this other one that we've been working on ready here pretty soon. If we can get the boys across the pond.
My only message is to enjoy TXR and the Assetto Corsa and Ridge Racer 8 when it inevitably launches with the Switch 2 in 2 months. Whatever.
Stop doing this. But yeah, no. If you folks out there are music people, Adam and I used to have a music podcast called The Silent Discographer, where we were going through artists' discographies in chronological order, and we will be firing that up here pretty soon with our buddy Andre from Fine Time, going through the discography of the American rock band REM. That's all I got. I don't know.
Yeah.
More time extent coming.
More time extent coming.
We've got a list. That's whatever. I'm not going to be like, oh, it'll be here in a week, or I'm not going to give you a time. That's
no.
Come
If there's anything,
you know us.
It's that giving times and dates sets you up for failure. So
100%.
We'll see you when we see.
Yes.